Maharaji, Gurukula, in what you to Gurukula.
Oh, okay. Can you be quiet? Okay, I tried to broadcast in the other room. Wow, look at that. It's like a newscast. Huh? Got the world behind us. Okay, look at that. Wow. The news. We've just taken over the world. So I had to move. Now I can't. Anyway, I'll just do what we can. So it's now December. Traditionally in December, where the weather's permissible, we do book distribution. Everybody tries to do something. So I thought I would talk about that. And yeah, I'm not recording this class because I had to move. I'm wondering if I should record it some other way. Anyway, it'll be recorded here. Hopefully we won't have any trouble, but the room I was set up in is too far from the router. So anyway, when Prabhupada came to America, he was very focused on publishing his books. In the early days, he published Teachings of Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavad Gita. Those were the early books. And then he, of course, brought the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when I moved into the temple, those were the three books we had. First canto of the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and we had Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That was it. So, in a sense, it was quite an accomplishment that Bhagavad Gita got published by Macmillan. And then Jayananda Prabhu gave the money to publish Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And I'm not even certain when Prabhupada translated it, but it existed when I was coming in 1969. So, at that time, and just after that, 1970, Krishna book, Nectar of Devotion. And then maybe around 1971, 72, second canto of Bhagavatam. And then Chaitanya Charitamrita, then that was continuing in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was about 1975. So, in the early days of ISKCON, we were distributing Back to Godheads along with the Harinam Sankirtan Party. Nobody, aside from occasionally going door to door, all book distribution generally was done. Well, it's not entirely true, but generally it was done with the Sankirtan Party in Dodi or Sari. And although Bhagavad Gita had been published, no, we weren't distributing them on the street because we made the assumption no one would want them, and we made the assumption that Bhagavad Gita was for us. It wasn't, it was just for interested people. And when the Krishna book came out, that same assumption was made. It's really for a congregation. At the same time, Prabhupada was pushing, asking us to distribute. And so it was kind of like nobody understood what Prabhupada meant. I mean, we kind of did, but nobody was trying. And so, if you look at the history of ISKCON in terms of book distribution, you'll see that Prabhupada was pushing it, but not pushing it so much until the devotees started catching on. And a lot of the letters in which Prabhupada is glorifying book distribution and the book distributors are in response to Sankirtan scores of phenomenal amounts of books that were formerly unthought of. Distributing Back to Godheads and a few big books, starting after 1970, 71, occasionally. But then the first Christmas marathon was in 1972, and it wasn't planned, it just happened. Devotees used to go to stores, like an equivalent of what would be a Walmart now in America, big one store, one parking lot. And somehow or other, either they wouldn't ask us to leave or we had permission, I don't know, but we'd be right at the exit of the door. Maybe there were some laws at that time that would allow it. And so we would just stay there all day. That was normal. And devotees would go out in the morning and they'd come back in the evening. And so the days leading up to Christmas, the stores stay open late. And as you know, people during Christmas are quite generous. So what was happening is, because normally devotees would leave like 8 or 9, but they saw that the store was open and it was quite crowded. And it was like, 3-4 days before Christmas. And practically everybody was giving a donation and taking a magazine. So normally devotees might distribute 20, 30, 40, 50. Now they're coming back having distributed 200, 300. So one night, as Rameshwar tells the story, he was distributing at a store and he realized that something special is happening. It's Christmas, people are in a generous mood, and the stores stay open late. And so I think he stayed out to maybe 11 o'clock and then drove back. And he was thinking, I don't want to keep the devotees awake. I'd like to stay out longer, but I don't want to keep them awake. And so if I stay, because the Sankirtan leader would wait up for them to get their money and so forth. So he thought I should go back. So I think he got back about midnight and he was, feeling like this is really late. And he was surprised because when he got back, nobody was back. So spontaneously, everybody realized that Christmas is this amazing opportunity to distribute books. And so everybody stayed out later than he did. And that's was the beginning of the first Christmas marathon. So that I think they only did like at most a week before Christmas. It could have just been like 3 days. From my memory, it was like 3 days before Christmas. And the scores were outstanding, and they were ecstatic having distributed so many books. And they presented that to Prabhupada. And that was the first Christmas marathon. And then from that, they realized that they could go out longer because the Christmas spirit starts in December, at least within the first week or two. So then temples were organizing Christmas marathons where all the departments would shut down and everyone in the temple would go out on book distribution, whatever department you were in. I mean, you couldn't shut down deity worship. But all departments that could be shut down temporarily were shut down. And then all the devotees went out. So you have situations like in Los Angeles where you're looking at maybe, I would estimate 150 to 200 devotees going out, and they would take off for a week. And so that's kind of how it developed. We take off for a week or 10 days because those were the prime shopping days and everything. And we organized huge Sankirtan all over. And then from there, the full-time Sankirtan devotees expanded and they would do a marathon, which means they'd go out early, stay out late for an entire month of December. And then later on, it became November and December. The idea being that we could distribute almost as many books in December as we could the entire year. In some cases, maybe more if we could engage. If the temple was big enough and we could engage everybody. So when Prabhupada got the book scores, he once said the book scores were his life and soul. So he was very, very happy that inspired the devotees. And they just were relishing the opportunity to be able to have Prabhupada hear the scores, because Prabhupada said that the book scores were his life and soul, so that was very inspiring. So then, traditionally, what happened was, after Prabhupada left, this concept of the Christmas marathon as an opportunity for huge amounts of books to be distributed, because people are in such a good mood, a generous mood, continued. And then it kind of evolved in some cases in temples where you didn't have a lot of devotees full time. Some devotees would buy books and give them out. Some devotees would buy books and give them to other people. Some devotees would buy books and give them to hotels to put in the rooms. Some devotees would, some devotees would go to hotels and give them the books. Some devotees would go out and get sponsors and then give out the books. So they do it different ways according to their own abilities and nature. So that's kind of the history. So here we are, it's December. So I thought, why don't we speak a little bit about book distribution, what it is and how it's dear to Prabhupada, and with the idea that everyone can participate in some way by doing it directly or by helping. And I was just thinking today that probably the best way to do this is just to make a plan how you're going to do it. See, the world's waiting for you. You know, if we just think about it and nothing may happen, but if we make a plan, okay, when can I do it? How can I do it? Who can I do it with? Where do I get the books? Where do I go? You know, something like that. I think that's important. How I can do it? Who could sponsor books? Will libraries take? So many ways it could be done. So I think that's important. So hopefully we can inspire you in some way. And then if you do it, you get a lot of mercy from Prabhupada. But my experience in spreading Krishna consciousness is that, as Prabhupada one time said, he said, actually there are devotees on every street corner. He was talking about America, and he said, there are devotees on every street corner in America. You just have to go and pick them up. So when you go out and preach, when you go out in book distribution, you find there are interested people everywhere. And you realize that if you didn't go out, you wouldn't have met that person. And occasionally you meet someone who is very interested, or they say something like, I was looking for this. Thank you so much. And then you realize that just by your little effort, the person who really needed to meet a devotee, get a book, hear about Krishna, you met them. So, and there are so many like that. Now, the other meditation, not the only other one, but another meditation, is, as Prabhupada said, the books are like bombs. At least that's the way Prabhupada saw it. More like time bombs. You don't know when the time bombs are going to go out. So some devotees say, well, you know, people don't read the books. Yeah, nowadays, people's attention may be not drawn into reading books, but whatever the case, the books don't do us any good sitting in a warehouse. And as the world evolves and things get worse, that you never know when a person may be ready to read. And when they're ready, the book is out there. So that was Prabhupada's vision, that you can spread a movement through its books and the books can go everywhere. So it's a bomb that's going to go off sooner or later. It may not even go off in this person's lifetime. It may not go off in their house. But and we may not see the direct results, but this is one of the main ways Prabhupada wanted us to spread Krishna consciousness. He said that if we distribute books, we'd be successful. So we like to take advantage if possible. Now, my experience of distributing books in December, if you have any reluctance to distribute books, then December is by far the easiest time, because you just say, Merry Christmas, here's a book. Half the battle's already won. It's Christmas time. Christmas is a time for giving. And it's a spiritual book, and it's a spiritual time. So it's actually quite easy. In December, and the closer it gets to Christmas, the easier it gets. And people that normally wouldn't be interested or wouldn't give a donation, in December, they're more inclined to do so. So that's the idea, just to inspire you. So Prabhupada was asked about book distribution, right? You know, why do we do it? What's the result, and so on. He said different things at different times, but I think the main thing he said was, my spiritual master told me to do it, and I trust in him. In other words, he was saying that I may or may not be able to understand how beneficial it is, but he wanted it. He asked me to do it, so I have faith in that order, that if I do it, it'll be successful. Krishna consciousness will be successful. And then Prabhupada said that. The more we distribute books, the more it will be successful. So he had a vision that book distribution equated to success. And sometimes we may not see that, because, as we said, so many people won't read the books, or don't at this point in time. But we have to see it through Prabhupada's vision. And one of the things that Prabhupada also said was just quite interesting. He said that people would benefit just by touching the book, because the book is a deity. And then he said, there's no question of reading. If they just touch it, they'll benefit. Wow. It's a deity and they touch it. And if they bring the book into their home, it makes their home auspicious. So that's interesting, isn't it? That it's not only reading, it's just the book makes the home auspicious, and it's auspicious that they've given donations to a devotee. So that's a broader way of seeing book distribution. Of course, we want them to read it, and we want them to practice. But sometimes the beginning of devotional service is just you do some service. So buying a book is service. And the idea is, when you do service, Krishna gives you more service. And if they have a book, there's the potential they'll read it. Or there's some likelihood, if they want to read it, it's there. And if we say nobody reads, well, that's definitely true. Nobody reads Prabhupada's books is definitely true if you don't distribute them. And if you do, you give them a chance to read it. And anyway, you've given them a chance to do devotional service. So that's the vision we need. And I like to see book distribution like an invitation that Krishna's giving people to go back to Godhead. And so, as representatives of Krishna, when you give a book, it's really like an invitation from God. So someone might say, well, what is this book? And you could say, well, actually, it's an invitation from God to come back to him. And we're God's representative, and he asked us to invite you back to him, to remind you have a relationship with him and invite you back to him. So It's said the devotee is more merciful than Krishna. So we love Krishna, and now the devotee, he's going out on behalf of Krishna. And Krishna's saying, okay, invite him back, but I won't interfere, but you go, you do it. And so that's what book distribution is. It's Krishna allowing us, or us working for Krishna, to invite people back to Godhead. Pretty interesting, huh? Here, it's like a little invitation back to Godhead. It's actually what's going on. So, at least we could offer that. Whether they take it or not is another thing, but at least we can offer that. And so that's another meaning of book distribution, just invitation to someone and who might be interested. And you always find interested people. And that's what's most rewarding about book distribution, when you find that person, because then you realize, even though so many people didn't appreciate and so many people didn't take books, it was all worth it because this person was really interested and they really wanted the book and they really wanted to read it. So, yeah, so that's there. My experience with book distribution is that it is not only a service to people, but it is a service to ourselves, because it's extremely inspiring, enlivening, and purifying. And so we need to distribute books, we need to preach, as much for the benefit of other people as for our own benefit. So that's another aspect. Preaching always inspires devotees, and especially book distribution, because sometimes it's a little difficult. And so when we do that austerity, we get more mercy. When we get more mercy, we become more ecstatic. So Prabhupada is extremely pleased when someone distributes his book, and so therefore a lot of mercy is being met out. There's a lot of mercy flowing into the hearts of book distributors, into their lives, because it's so pleasing to Prabhupada. So those are some thoughts. I am so tired right now. I don't know if I can think anymore. I didn't think I was going to be this tired. So, as I was saying before, you can think what you can do to distribute books. Even if you can't do it personally, maybe you could buy some books and give it to somebody, or buy some books, go to a concert, give them out, whatever. Do something, and you'll feel the connection to Prabhupada. You'll definitely feel it. You'll feel special. Special mercy coming, special strength. And I was giving a class the other day, and we were talking about Vaishnava Aparad, the first offense to the holy name. Criticize or blaspheme a devotee. And so I was making the point that if you want to come to the level of pure chanting, then it will be impossible if you're committing offenses while you're chanting. You can't. It's a contradiction. For the chanting to be pure, one of the qualifications or prerequisites is that it must be without offense, right? But the opposite is true. Well, so let's say you offend a devotee. The next day your chanting isn't going well, and you can't really, you're trying to improve, but you can't because you offended a devotee, so there's a reaction. So if what the devotees have said, if they preach, if they give Krishna consciousness, sometimes the next day their rounds are really good. So it's some mercy coming from the service, and now it's infiltrating the next day into your japa, and you're having, because of your enthusiastic book distribution, you're having good japa. Have you ever experienced that? So if you're doing the wrong thing, it affects your japa in a negative way. You're doing the right thing, it affects it in a positive way. Even you're not trying to improve, or you're not consciously doing anything that would be harmful, but you get that result because you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So if you distribute books, yeah, you'll probably find your japa gets better. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? But it works that way. So that may be something to experiment with. A new technique for improving your japa, go on book distribution. You'll get mercy, the next day your rounds will be better. And as some book distributors say, that you have to chant good rounds to go out. So if you want to go out and be potent, it forces you to chant. So that's another benefit. Yeah, well, another benefit is you feel very close to Prabhupada by going out, because this service is so dear to him that naturally you become dear to him, and naturally you feel close doing a service that's so dear to Prabhupada. Right? I mean, of course, Prabhupada's pleased with everything, but especially pleased with this. So, special mercy. You can get special mercy. And you'll feel it, you'll experience it. So, that's what I want to say about book distribution. And I am very tired. I would love to go to sleep, but I need your permission. You grant me permission to go to sleep. Is that okay? Somehow I'm so tired, I shouldn't be, but I am. Well, actually, I did a 6-hour workshop today. That's probably why I'm tired. Okay, so thank you for watching, and thank you for being merciful and letting me go. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.